I am a fool. Yet the emperor chose me as his consort. On our wedding night, the emperor had just shed his dragon robe and sat on the bed, when I couldn't wait to pounce on him and kiss him all over. My face was covered in drool. Is this how a wedding night should be? The emperor smiled like a fox and took my hand. Not quite. Let me teach you, shall I? I have been different from others since I was a child. To put it politely, I'm not very bright. To put it bluntly, I'm an idiot. But no one ever dared to say it out loud, because my father is a powerful and high-ranking chancellor, even when I was 4 and couldn't speak clearly, drooling and gnawing on my fingers. If anyone ever dared to mock me, that person would vanish from this world forever. My father loves me so dearly, only because I gave him his life. That happened before I was even born. The great general rebelled, charging into the palace to kill the late emperor and seize power. To kill the emperor and seize power, Father blocked a poison needle for the late emperor, falling into a deep unconscious state. The late emperor sent out notices far and wide seeking a divine healer, but none could cure him. Finally, a reclusive sage came to our estate, saying that to save my father, he needed a strand of hair from a child of the house. Only then could father recover. Back then, besides my older brother, there was only me still in my mother's womb, fully developed but yet to be born. As the legitimate son, my brother carried the hopes of our entire clan. So, this strand of hair had to be taken from me. I was born 3 days after father regained consciousness. Just after I was born, according to my brother's memory, as a newborn, I didn't look any different from other children. Because of my mother's exceptional beauty, I didn't look bad at all. If there was anything different, it was that I always liked to grin, getting drool everywhere. Everyone who saw me said this child was always smiling. Everyone said the baby was always smiling, and they took me to the banquet. With fair skin and delicate features, a true little beauty in the making. Yet, by the age of 2.5, I still hadn't spoken a word. Everyone in the manor suspected I was mute, but no one dared to say it aloud. Only father would always stroke my head affectionately and say, "My little Lening is just a noble soul who speaks late." The day I finally spoke happened to be the former emperor's birthday banquet. Father took mother and brother holding me to attend the feast. When the former emperor saw me in father's arms, in the blink of an eye, "You've grown into a little girl." Father led me forward to pay respects to the emperor. I let go of father's hand, stumbled forward a few steps, and spoke my very first words. Long live, ha 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 ha. Reward her, reward her, reward her. The former emperor was overjoyed, waving his hand to grant me 10,000 taels of gold, and even issued an imperial decree naming me a princess. When father saw me finally speak, he was so happy that tears streamed down his face. From that day on, I slowly began to find my voice, but I was still different from other children. I spoke very slowly, and my words were often slurred, and I would often trip while walking. It only solidified the fact that I was a fool. The fact that I was a fool, but I was born with pretty good luck. I suppose it is true that fools have their own fortunes. I remember that year there was a terrible drought. Not a drop of rain fell for a year, and the crops failed completely. The former emperor was so worried that he fell ill, with piles of memorials delivered to him one after another. That day, for some reason, I insisted on following father, or else I would wail and cry. So he had no choice but to bring me along to visit the emperor. I naively waddled up to the emperor's bedside and touched the emperor's forehead. "So hot. Let it rain." I remembered mother saying that getting caught in the rain gives you a cold. If the emperor uncle gets rained on, his forehead won't be hot anymore. Just as I finished saying that, the wind began to blow outside the window. I smiled happily and pointed outside. Look. The week of heavy rain that followed ended the drought. The late emperor's illness was cured as well, and I was granted a new title, Princess Fu Hui. It meant being blessed with both fortune and wisdom. I didn't understand what that meant. I only knew my name was Fu Lening, because I had resolved that drought. The late emperor saw me as a lucky star and gave father permission to bring me into the palace. So, I attended every banquet in the palace, big or small. I first met Si Jincheng in the Imperial Garden. I was wandering around the Imperial Garden when I saw someone standing in the corner. I thought it was my eldest brother, so I stumbled as I ran toward him and fell with a thud right in front of Si Jincheng. Si Jincheng caught me, and I looked up at the boy who was much older than me. Si Jincheng's brow was deeply furrowed, his gaze sharp, but as he looked at silly little me, he suddenly smiled a little. I don't remember what happened after that. I only remember that day, in the Imperial Garden, I saw someone more beautiful than a celestial being. I saw Si Jincheng again 2 years later at the late emperor's birthday banquet. It was the late emperor's birthday banquet 2 years later. "Lening, come here. Help me look. Who else here is the emperor?" I didn't understand what he meant, and looked at the late emperor in confusion, perhaps because my gaze held a clear, simple-minded quality. The late emperor didn't notice my bewilderment, and patted my hand gently as he said, "Go down there and see if you can find him." I bit my lip in confusion, and looked around the room, seeing only people I didn't recognize. Only Si Jincheng sitting in the corner was someone I had met once before. I ran happily towards Si Jincheng. I poked his face with my finger, then I heard the late emperor's hearty laugh. Good. Lening understands my heart best. I didn't understand what was happening, but seeing them all so cheerful, I started to feel happy too. I was smiling so hard that drool ran down. I was afraid the godlike brother would see me looking so unsightly, so whenever I started drooling, I would immediately suck it back in. After that incident, Si Jincheng, who was previously overlooked, began to appear in the public eye. After the late emperor passed away, he successfully ascended the throne. Many noblewomen tried every possible way to get close to him, but he paid them no mind. He would run to the prime minister's estate every few days. In front of others, he was a cold and ruthless young emperor, never showing his emotions. Faced with the women vying for his attention, he ignored them with a cold gaze. He saved all his tenderness just for me, but I was actually a little annoyed with him, because he would always pull me in and force me to write his name. The strokes were too many and too hard to write. I put down my brush and pouted in protest. Fine. Then we don't have to write it. Ning, you just need to stay with me forever. I looked up into Si Jincheng's eyes and nodded with a giggle. I scampered off to tell father that besides staying with father for the rest of my life, I also wanted to stay with brother Jingjing. But when father heard this, his face turned dark immediately. He went to the imperial study that very night. Your Majesty, Lening is innocent and worldly naive. Your servant begs your majesty not to disturb her anymore. Ever since Si Jincheng ascended the throne, he had been asking father to make me empress. The inner palace is incredibly dangerous. If I were to sit on the throne, I would surely be torn to pieces. With strong opposition from my father and eldest brother, Yang Qingxi, the daughter of the Minister of Revenue, was made empress. Si Jincheng, who was always poised and calm, felt a flicker of irritation at this request from my father. Prime Minister, I truly love Ning. I know that your majesty is sincere at this moment. But how long can this sincerity last? A month, a year, or a lifetime? At that moment, for the sake of my happiness, my father disregarded all courtly etiquette. I am well aware of your affection for Lening, so there is something I dare not hide from you any longer. Your Majesty, Lening is not like other people. Prime Minister, why do you say that? Are the rumors outside true? My daughter is actually simple-minded. The secret my father had guarded his whole life was finally spoken aloud. Are you willing to bring a simple-minded person into the harem? Hearing my father say this, Si Jincheng was stunned. He did not answer. My father gave a self-deprecating laugh. From ancient times to now, what emperor would be willing to marry a simple-minded girl? Wouldn't that be a massive joke? It seems his feelings for Lening weren't true after all. I am willing. Si Jincheng understood my father's worries and had promised more than once that I would never be wronged. He would have issued an imperial decree to prove his sincerity if he could. I know of your sincerity, your majesty, but Lening is pure of heart, and the harem is a place of complex intrigues. It is no place for her to live in peace. Si Jincheng sighed helplessly. For the first time, he hated being the emperor. If he were merely a carefree prince, he would surely be able to protect his Ninger. But after you pass on prime minister, who else will be there to look after her? Si Jincheng's words struck home in my father's heart. With my brother on the battlefield, he truly couldn't look after me at all times. My father, too, worried about who would care for me when he was gone. There will be no one to look after me. If you, Prime Minister, are willing, I am willing to take care of Ninger for you. I give you my word that here in the inner palace, Ninger shall live in peace and safety, without a single care. If you still have reservations, Prime Minister, I shall issue an imperial decree immediately. Should Ning or suffer the slightest grievance, this entire empire shall be yours to take. Upon hearing these words from Si Jincheng, father thought for a long time and finally nodded. Less than an hour later, the decree naming me Imperial Noble Consort had spread throughout the city. The entire capital was left dumbfounded. After all, according to ancestral traditions, there are strict requirements for elevating a consort, the most important being the birth of an imperial heir. Yet, I was granted the title of Imperial Noble Consort before even entering the palace. It was an honor beyond measure. Because there was so little time, I wasn't sure if the full set of gold jewelry could be crafted in time. My sister-in-law was both anxious and heartsick for me. If there's truly not enough time, just take the set the Empress Dowager gifted us at our wedding. Why must little A Ning enter the palace? The inner palace is not like our home. Here, we can protect her. but in the palace who will protect her. Sister-in-law finally stopped packing my luggage, and the tears she had been holding back finally broke through. They finally broke through. They say a sister-in-law is like a mother. Ever since she married into our household, she has cared for me so deeply. She has been so incredibly attentive to me. My health is frail. Whenever I felt slightly unwell with a fever or headache, she would stay up all night watching over me. There were many with ill intent who coveted the prime minister's estate and sent matchmakers to propose a marriage for me. Yes, they sent matchmakers to propose. Without a second thought, my sister-in-law would scold them and drive them out. She feared that without the protection of our home, I would suffer. Little Lening, as long as I am alive, no one will be able to bully you. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, the day arrived for me to enter the palace. The 10-mile wedding procession filled the city, decorated with lanterns and streamers. Bursting with joy, it was a spectacle only seen at the wedding of an emperor and empress. A group of maids and eunuchs led me away and had me sit in an exquisitely decorated room. I felt the phoenix coronet on my head was too heavy. Just as I reached out to take it off, I was struck on the back of my hand by the matron standing nearby. How reckless, truly unmannerly. Having never been struck in my life, I was completely stunned. My lady's maid tried to speak up for me, but she too was slapped by Matron Gaia. In the inner palace, only the empress is the true master. Even when climbing the social ladder, you must know your place. I was terrified, tears streaming down my face. Then I suddenly remembered the night before, when father and the others said that today is a day of great joy, and I must not cry. So I choked back my sobs and covered my mouth. Just then, outside came the voice of brother Emperor, sounding both joyful and anxious. The palace servants did not expect the emperor to arrive so early, and they all froze in place. Matron Gui was the first to react. She glared at me viciously and whispered a threat through gritted teeth. Your ladyship wouldn't want to worry the emperor, would you? How to behave? You'd best weigh carefully. Unfortunately, Matron Gui overestimated me. How could I possibly understand the meaning of her words? I only remembered what father told me, that whatever happens, I must tell Si Jincheng and never suffer in silence. As soon as I saw Si Jincheng enter, I threw the phoenix coronet onto the floor in grievance, held up my hand red from being slapped and said, I want to go home. I want to go home. No one at home would ever hit me. When Si Jincheng saw my reddened hand, his face turned cold as he scanned the room, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Who did this? Then he looked at the two head maids in front. He had seen these two in the Empress's palace before. No one spoke, but he already had his answer. The Empress has failed in her discipline. Deduct 1 year of her stipend. In addition, give every palace servant 50 strokes each. Jincheng's voice sounded calm. I didn't understand it either. After being coaxed for a long while by Brother Jin's soft words, I no longer felt the way I did at the start. I've been hungry all day. I couldn't help but start eating the fragrant pastries on the table. Lening, you must be famished, right? Summon quickly. Go tell the Imperial kitchen to prepare some hot food for the Imperial Noble Consort. Si Jincheng's tone when speaking to me was always so gentle, but this contrast only made the kneeling servants tremble even more violently once I started eating, carefree and oblivious. The Emperor finally cast his gaze toward the maid with the handprint on her face. You tell me, what happened just now? Ying Tao tremblingly recounted what had just occurred. The Imperial Noble Consort has had a tiring day. Take her away to rest first. Jincheng didn't want me to hear the bloody words that would follow, but he never once considered that I wouldn't have understood them at all. After I left, the Emperor's expression became strange and sinister. Head maid Li. Is it? Which hand did you use to strike her? Then have that hand severed and hung at the Empress's palace gate. Headmaid Li, curled up on the ground, kept kowtowing, but it was already useless. The other servants secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness we didn't join in. Mistreating the Imperial Noble Consort. Issue the decree. Headmaid Li has committed an offense against her superior. Exterminate her entire clan. Ying Tao protected her mistress well. Reward her with 2 years' salary. The rest shall each receive 30 lashes. Having said that, he entered the inner chamber without looking back. I had already been waiting in the inner chamber for quite a while. Seeing Brother Jing enter, I hurried over to ask him, can I return to the Prime Minister's residence? Don't worry, Lening. No one here will ever bully you again. I shook my head. It is getting dark, Brother Jing. I should go home. Mother said I shouldn't stay out late after dark. From now on, this is our home. A home that belongs only to you and me. Lening, will you stay here and keep me company from now on? Si Jincheng coaxed me as if I were a child. It is getting dark. How about I take you to bed? All right then. I obediently lay down on the bed by myself. When Si Jincheng took off his formal robes and entered the room, I had already closed my eyes and fallen soundly asleep. Seeing this scene, the emperor felt both exasperated and amused. Is his Lening really this carefree? Half asleep and half awake, I felt someone pulling me into his arms. I felt uncomfortable, so I instinctively pushed him away. Lening, don't move. It was Brother Jin, his deep voice whispering in my ear. All right. Since it is Brother Jin, I'll begrudgingly let you hold me. Early the next morning, because he had to attend court, Si Jincheng sat up early. I was awakened by the sounds beside me, and groggily tried to sit up as well. But just as I was halfway up, the soreness in my body forced me back down. Si Jincheng, noticing this, gently laid me back down, then kissed my forehead softly. Lening, Brother Jin has to go to court now. It is still very early, so it is fine if you sleep a while longer. But I insisted on sitting up and stretched my arms. The governess said I must pay my respects to the empress. I have to go early. I clumsily picked up his court robes to help Si Jincheng put them on. Go to the empress's palace. If the empress gives you a hard time, just come back and tell me. Si Jincheng looked at me, struggling with the cumbersome court robes, and said dotingly, let the servants do it. Lening should go have breakfast. Don't starve yourself on my account. After sending Si Jincheng off to morning court, Yingtao helped me get dressed and groomed. I had to pay my respects to the empress shortly. My lady, your skin is as fair as snow, and you look beautiful in these patterned fabrics. A young palace maid took out a gorgeous gown embroidered with gold thread peonies and asked me to wear it. The peony is a noble flower. Only the empress may wear it. I didn't understand all that, but I thought this bright red gown was beautifully crafted and would certainly look good on me. Just as I entered the empress's palace, the other concubines noticed I was late and that I was dressed so ostentatiously, and everyone felt a bit displeased inside. However, because of what happened last night, they didn't dare to trouble me, so they could only mock me through veiled words. But they gave me too much credit. I couldn't hear the subtext in their remarks at all. Following the etiquette taught by the instructress, I paid my respects to the empress and then sat in my assigned seat. The emperor truly dotes on our Imperial Noble Consort. The first to speak was Noble Lady Yoon, sitting across from me. Isn't that the truth? Look at how brilliantly and luxuriously the Imperial Noble Consort is dressed. She must be the apple of the Emperor's eye. None of us can compare to her. That's enough, say no more. If the Emperor likes the Imperial Noble Consort, then I too shall favor her. We all serve the Emperor together. We are all sisters. What is there to compare or not compare? The Empress waited until the other concubines had had their fill of talk before she spoke up to smooth things over. I, however, paid them no mind. Noticing some freshly brewed tea nearby, I took a sip. The tea lacked sweetness in its aftertaste and tasted bitter going down my throat. It's not as good as the tea at the Prime Minister's manor. The Empress waited for a reaction from me after saying that, but I was too busy drinking my tea to notice. A flicker of displeasure flashed across her face. Noble consort, you really lack manners. The Empress is speaking to you. Seeing the Empress displeased, Noble Lady Yoon immediately took the lead to lash out at me. Isn't the Empress just scolding you for being gossips? When I heard Noble Lady Yoon speak to me like that, I was a bit confused. Didn't the Empress just tell them to stop? How did it turn into her speaking to me instead? As soon as I finished speaking, the entire room fell into a dead silence. All right, it is getting late. Everyone, return and rest. Finally, the Empress spoke up to break the stalemate. Seeing me leave, Noble Lady Yoon leaned in toward the Empress and lowered her voice to ask, Your Majesty, is this noble consort acting stupid, or is she actually stupid? Whether she is acting or she is stupid, she has just entered the palace, and the Emperor is merely favoring her a little. There is no need to rush. At the thought of the maid she had sent over last night being treated in such a way, it was no different than a direct slap to her face as the Empress. How could she possibly swallow this insult? With the Emperor favoring me right now, she wouldn't dare make a move against me easily. There is plenty of time ahead. I shall settle this debt another day. Time slipped away in the blink of an eye. It has now been 3 months since I entered the palace. Life inside these palace walls is incredibly dull. Every day is just paying respects to the Empress and waiting for Brother Jin to finish his morning court. A never-ending cycle. The war in the northwest has reached a stalemate recently, and Si Jincheng is deeply troubled. I haven't seen him in 3 days. Cherry, where is Brother Jin now? I leaned against the window, watching the fallen leaves outside. Autumn has arrived, and the weather is turning cold. Your Highness, The emperor finished his morning court session and went straight to the study to meet with his ministers. I rose, intending to head to the study to find him. While passing through the imperial garden, I spotted Noble Lady Yun and another noble lady whose name I couldn't recall. Your Highness, Noble Lady Yun and Noble Lady Jen are over there. Cherry pointed at the two women ahead and led me toward them. Is your information reliable? General Fu has met with disaster. Of course it is reliable. General Fu was gravely wounded and has been missing for 7 days. The emperor knows about it too. That is why these past few days, he has been avoiding the Imperial Noble Consort. My brother is in trouble. Upon hearing this news, I rushed forward, desperate to ask for the truth, but my foot caught on something, and I tumbled down the stone steps. My head struck a flower pot beside the path, and everything went black. I fainted. What is going on? How could the Imperial Noble Consort fall like this for no reason? In my haze, I heard Si Jincheng's furious reprimand. Cherry immediately knelt down, bowing her head repeatedly. Please, Your Majesty, this servant deserves to die. I failed to protect Her Highness. I beg for your mercy, Your Majesty. Her Highness was feeling restless and wished to take a walk in the Imperial Garden. She happened to see a butterfly, and while chasing it, she accidentally tripped down the stone steps. Hearing Cherry say this, I felt that something was wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The back of my head was aching terribly. I couldn't help but reach up to rub it. Seeing that I had awakened, Si Jincheng rushed over to help me up. Lening, how could you be so careless? Seeing Si Jincheng and remembering the news about my brother before I fell, I burst into tears of grievance. Why are you crying? Are you hurt somewhere? Quickly, summon the imperial physician at once. Si Jincheng assumed I was seriously injured, which was why I wouldn't stop crying and calling out for my brother. Lening, are you homesick? I will accompany you back tomorrow. Si Jincheng coaxed me with the patience one would show a child. Physician, examine the Imperial Noble Consort thoroughly. Check if there are any other injuries. The physician saw how heartbrokenly I was crying, and he was quite alarmed himself. He hurried to take my pulse. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Ladyship. Congratulations for what? Lening is so badly hurt. What is there to congratulate? Her Ladyship is 2 months pregnant. I stared at the physician in disbelief. Si Jincheng was stunned for a moment. Then he burst into a joyful laugh. Lening, did you hear that? We are going to have a child. Si Jincheng was so happy his grin stretched from ear to ear. I had yet to react when my peripheral vision caught Yingtao. Upon hearing this news, a strange look flashed across her face. I looked at the other servants waiting on me. Their expressions weren't as ecstatic as Si Jincheng's, but they were all happy. Why was Yingtao the only one acting differently? For the first time, I felt distressed by my lack of wit. Your Majesty, joyful news. Xiao Xiaozi rushed in to report, handing the battle report from the front lines to the emperor. General Fu has won a great victory and has pacified the northwest. Si Jincheng opened the report, scanning it quickly. Wonderful. Lening, you are truly my lucky star. Si Jincheng handed me the report, but suddenly remembered I was illiterate. He told me the contents of the report. The Northwest is pacified. General Fu is already on his way back to the capital. I still remember what I heard in the Imperial Garden. Wasn't my brother's life hanging in the balance? I picked up the war report and suddenly realized I could recognize some of the characters. Back at the estate, my brother had taught me how to read and write, but I could never seem to remember them, nor could I learn. Looking at the handwriting on the report now, it is indeed my brother's. My brother is safe. Then why did I hear those things in the Imperial Garden? The more I think, the more my head hurts. I scratched my head, careless of the force, and accidentally touched my wound. The pain made me wince. Oh no, could it be that my brain is finally starting to develop? Lening, Brother Jing truly loves you so much. Ever since I became pregnant, Si Jincheng comes to keep me company whenever he is free. Because Si Jincheng has been constantly by my side, he has neglected the other concubines. Every time I go to pay my respects to the Empress, I always hear some sarcastic remarks from the other concubines. Lening, why haven't you been very happy lately? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Si Jincheng, seeing me, asked with a worried look on his face. It is not that I'm physically unwell. My heart is what feels unwell. Ever since I injured the back of my head, I feel like I think much more than I used to. But with more thinking comes less happiness. In the past, every time I went to pay my respects to the Empress, I could leave after just 1 cup of tea. I couldn't understand what they were saying anyway. Now that I understand a bit, it only adds to my worries. And I've started to feel that Cherry is acting strangely. But with my current intellect, I can't figure it out. Your Majesty, the peony symbolizes the Empress, right? Rumors have been spreading in the palace that I don't respect the Empress and am arrogant because of your favor. I know I'm not good with words, so I rarely speak to the Empress in my daily life. How did that turn into me not respecting her? After thinking it over for 3 or 4 days, I finally figured it out. Every time I went to pay my respects, the other concubines, including the Empress, would dress in elegant and modest colors. I was the only one wearing a bright red gold embroidered gown featuring phoenix and peony patterns. My clothes and my makeup were all prepared by Cherry. Having been in the palace for so long, it is impossible that she didn't understand these rules. I saw Si Jincheng nod, so I continued to ask, so, am I not supposed to wear bright red gowns? And I shouldn't wear anything with peony patterns on them either. Si Jincheng was amused by my serious expression, and he gently pinched my cheek, saying dotingly, as long as you like it, that is all that matters. There are no supposed tos or nots. Hearing Si Jincheng answer like that, I didn't give it much more thought. I assumed Si Jincheng had probably told Cherry as well, that as long as I liked it, I could wear whatever I wanted. But I never expected that the inner palace was far more complex and terrifying than I had imagined. During the time I was pregnant, Si Jincheng was worried that something might happen to me, so he spent all his spare time by my side. But despite me being so cautious, I was still plotted against twice. Once was at the mid-autumn banquet, where poison was placed only in my meal. Fortunately, I had a poor appetite due to the pregnancy, and plus, the dosage of the poison wasn't high, so both the baby and I were saved. The second time was right in my own bedchamber, when I suddenly fainted. The imperial physician diagnosed it as poisoning, but after searching the entire palace, we couldn't find the source of the poison. Living in such constant fear, my baby was finally born safely. Hearing that loud, piercing cry, I felt my whole body finally relax. Let me see the baby, I said weakly, struggling to speak, but the midwife seemed not to have heard me at all. Instead, she carried the baby over and let Cherry take a look. It is a boy, the midwife whispered to Yingtao. Yingtao, I want to see the baby. Having just given birth, I was already physically exhausted. I fainted before I could finish my sentence. When I finally woke up, it was already the third day. Where is the baby? The first thing I said upon opening my eyes was to ask for my child. Seeing that I was awake, Jincheng immediately took the baby from the wet nurse's arms and placed her in mine. Lening, this is our baby. She is a lovely little princess. How can it be a princess? Hearing Si Jincheng say this, I immediately unwrapped the swaddling clothes to check. It was indeed a princess. That is impossible. I clearly heard the midwife say it was a boy. How did it become a princess? I looked down at the princess in my arms, then raised my head to look at Si Jincheng before me. I am certain I definitely gave birth to a boy. Then who swapped the baby? Where is my child now? Who is trying to harm me? Was it the Empress Lady Yun, the midwife, or someone else? Countless possibilities raced through my mind. From my childhood until now, I have never felt so exhausted. Your Majesty, I'm so tired. I want to rest for a while longer. Si Jincheng's pained expression did not seem feigned. I closed my eyes and replayed everything that had happened since entering the palace. I knew who it was. My lady, the Emperor's attendant Xiao Xia just came to deliver a message. The Emperor has state affairs to attend to tonight, so he will not be coming. Yingtao brought over a bowl of blood-nourishing soup. I scooped up a spoonful, blew on it, handed to Yingtao, signal for her to drink it. Your Highness, what are you? Seeing my unusual behavior, Yingtao lowered her head, looking somewhat guilty. Rest assured, there is no poison in this sedative soup. You aren't that foolish, are you? I stared at her. Her reaction was exactly as I had expected. This daily restorative sedative soup is non-toxic, but when combined with the scent of the yian flowers on the table, the two together become a colorless and odorless poison. It is said that the previous dynasty's palace held a secret technique for making goo poison. Am I right, your ladyship? Upon hearing me say this, Yingtao, knowing that the truth could no longer be hidden, ceased to panic. The immortal who came to the Chancellor's manor to save my father was also an impostor sent by you, wasn't it? This whole affair was a conspiracy from start to finish. That so-called hermit immortal was actually poisoning me with Giyu. Because my birth date falls under the yin element, it makes me suitable for hosting goo poison. It seems you know everything now. Yingtao pulled a dagger from her robes with a vicious expression. The goo parasite has already taken form within your body. When the time comes to summon the Jiyu King, the entire world will belong to us. Only after finishing her sentence did Yingtao sense that something was wrong. The mind of the person poisoned by Giyu should have been suppressed. You shouldn't be acting like this at all. You've dispelled the poison. Yingtao looked into my eyes. At this moment, my gaze was not at all as it had been before. The Empress has confessed everything. Should I continue to call you Yingtao? Or should I call you Princess Wenhei of the previous dynasty? How could you possibly have dispelled the poison? There is no way you could have dispelled it. Yingtao could not believe it, and she did not want to believe it, because the method to dispel this particular goo requires the heart blood of her own clansmen. It is just as you think. The heart blood of your 99 clansmen. You killed them. You murdered them all. Upon hearing that I had wiped out her remaining kin, she became completely unhinged. We didn't lose either. What about your child? My father had been secretly investigating the swapping of my child. After discovering that my child was taken from the palace, the baby was discarded in a mass grave. In the end, we were still a step too late. By the time my brothers arrived, the child had already been dead for days. Following the trail to its source, we discovered the Empress's family intended to rebel. A minister with no control over the military. How could he have staged a rebellion so easily? Upon further investigation, it turned out they were colluding with remnants of the previous dynasty. I know, she is trying to provoke me by mentioning my dead child. So, I pulled out the handkerchief my father had given me. Inside was a severed finger and a jade pendant stained with blood. Do you know how much your brother suffered before he died? That blood-stained jade pendant, along with, made Cherry tremble uncontrollably. She knew in her heart that there were no survivors left in her clan. Your brother was still dreaming of being emperor. How laughable. Even after his limbs were hacked off, he was still clutching this jade pendant tightly. You. Cherry pointed a trembling finger at my eyes and said in disbelief, "You have been feigning ignorance all this time." I held back the tears threatening to fall and said every word clearly. "I want your entire clan to pay with their lives for my child." With that, I threw the finger and the jade pendant at Cherry's face. The secret guards by Si Jincheng sidestepped forward immediately and subdued Cherry. As Cherry was dragged away by the guards, her vicious curses rang incessantly in my ears. I silently closed my eyes and prayed, hoping my poor child could find peace in the afterlife. Lening, wake up. Another night of nightmares. I opened my eyes and exhaled deeply. I forced myself to calm down. After the Empress's clan and the remnants of the previous dynasty were purged, I began having nightmares night after night. Lening, another nightmare. Seeing my deathly pale face, Si Jincheng held me close, his heart aching. It is all over now. I miss my father. All right, we shall return to the Prime Minister's estate right now. The Prime Minister's estate is still some distance from the Imperial Palace. I drifted into a hazy sleep. Lening, Si Jincheng held me tight, gently patting me to soothe me to sleep. In the next life, I do not want to be this emperor. Let us just be an ordinary couple. We shall be together for all eternity. I reached out my pinky and wiggled it. Pinky promise. All right. Pinky promise, never to go back on our word.